This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 44th time, we are live. I feel like I just did this a couple of days ago, but yes, I did. But anyway, welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. I don't even know why I started it off like that, man, but welcome. Welcome to another episode. It's the big one. I've been talking about this all month long. Tomorrow is the anniversary of how the Reviewing Network came to be, and that means it's time for the annual State of the Reviewing Network, which means I'm going to unveil a whole assortment of announcements as later on in the show. Some big things we're working on here, on not just this channel, but also on the main channel as well, and on the website as well. We got a lot of stuff to get to here. And, yeah, I know there's some news stories this week we could talk about in general, not just in the world of movies, but, in the world of politics, too. The presidential debate happened on Thursday, and it was, it happened, so that's some stuff we could talk about, but, yeah, I'm just gonna spare you that, because, like I've always said, I don't want to talk about politics on here unless I feel I really need to talk about it, and I'm just not in that mood to talk about it just yet, So hopefully when I do is the time we'll be right to actually do this, but not now. This is supposed to be a show where I'm supposed to get you excited for the stuff we've got working on for the next year. We're gonna get to that and then some. But before we do that, because I haven't done it for the last 2 weeks, we might as well go ahead and take a look at the weekend box office, because last week, for a recap of what happened last week, if you guys keep up with the show, there was one new release last week, and that was The Bike Riders, which did not really leave much of a dent to the box office in general, which, I mean, it didn't do horrible, $9.6 million, which isn't bad for that film, opening at number 3, but I think the budget on that was like near, I think, $30 million or something like that. I think it was around that. Let me see. It was a high budget, too. Like, it was close, $30 to $40 million, so it needs to, it needs to make its money, but it needs to really make its money back over the next couple of weeks, which I don't think it's going to do, because it dropped like 66% from last week. But it's got good reviews, so hopefully the good reviews will be enough to carry it through. And honestly, it probably did better at Universal than it probably was going to do at Disney when they had it. But the big story last week, of course, was that Inside Out 2 was the #1 movie again, and it was the second time the film grossed $100 million over the course of one weekend, bringing its 2-week gross to last week's to $356 million, and we're going to get more into it this week because there was more history made with Inside Out 2, so let's get to this week's top 5, and it starts off with a film that I know nothing about. I just know that it's been playing in various languages in different various theaters, and it's one of those Bollywood movies that's trying to be the next RRR, Kaliki 2898 AD. And if you don't know what this is, then you and I are on the same pathways, because I really don't know too much about it. But according to Box Office Mojo, the movie is about a modern-day avatar of Vishnu, a Hindu god, who is believed to have descended to Earth to protect the world from evil forces. And that's really all I know about this movie. Like I said, I have no idea what this movie is. I just know that it's coming out around the same area that RRR came out a couple years ago and was the big breakout hit. And every once in a while, you get one of these movies that tries to be the next big thing. And let's see how it's doing in terms of the box office in general. Because here it's done $5.4 million, which, the fact that it did that in just 1,000 theaters without really a whole lot of marketing to it really does show you how much people really pay attention to these movies, even though there's not really that much of a demand that you see on, at least a big marketing campaign you see on television. I mean, they promoted this at Comic-Con last year, too, which was impressive to think about. Reviews are very positive. 75% from Rotten Tomatoes, and yeah, that's all you can really say about it, is that, hey, got good reviews. People went to go out and see it, even though there was no marketing for it whatsoever. So, win-win on their part. But again, I don't really know too much about the movie itself, so I can't really say anything about it. So let's go ahead and move on to the number 4 film, which was the number 2 film for the last couple of weeks, Bad Boys: Ride or Die. Still hanging in there, $10.3 million this weekend, only dropping 45% from last week to bring its 4-week gross up to $165 million, which I think we're getting close to when Bad Boys for Life came to an end on its run. I think that was around $160 million too. I'm wrong, $204 million. So we're still a couple of weeks away from that getting there, but it probably will get there in all good time, because the film has continued to do very well in the last couple of weeks. If you want to compare where the first film was where the last movie was after 4 weeks, it's a little down. It's a little not by about $1 million. The Bad Boys for Life in its 4th week made like $166.3 million. And this one's at 165.2, so it's not too far away. I'm pretty sure it will hit $200 million once it's all said and done. Plus, there's no COVID outbreak to really stop Bad Boys' momentum, because that's what happened with Bad Boys for Life. I mean, COVID shut down everything, but not before Bad Boys for Life made over $200 million. I would not be surprised if this film did the exact same thing before it got on out of here. Speaking of movies that's going to need a lot of help to get anything going, let's talk about the number 3 film, one of the 2 big new releases this week, and yeah, we should have seen this coming from a long ways back, but the worst has been confirmed. Kevin Costner's big-budget epic Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1, which brought in $11 million, which on paper, you would look at that and go, well, that's not too bad. I mean, why would I say it's a flop? I mean, that doesn't seem like it's too bad. Yeah, this thing cost between $50 and $100 million, and $50 million of that was Kevin Costner's money being put into this. So, yeah, this is not very good. The good news for him is that, hey, parts 2 and 3 are pretty much near completion. I think 2 is already set to come out this August, and then part 3 is pretty much finished, and there's a 4th film, but Kevin Costner needs the funding to make the movie, is to make this 4th film, and I don't think he's going to get it it's just for this first film alone. I mean, you could just see that this film was going to be off by the get-go. I mean, this is a movie that really, like, this was an idea that you look at it and you think there's possibility for something interesting there if you could do something new and different with it. But this is Kevin Costner trying to boast his ego even more. He has even said he hopes the movie does well because it helps his ego. And this is the guy that has had flop after flop after flop since winning multiple Oscars for Dances with Wolves. I mean, this is the guy that made Waterworld, which turned out to be a massive failure. This is the guy behind Rapa Nui, which was a massive failure. Wyatt Earp was a great film, but a massive failure. The Postman was one of the worst movies ever made. One of the worst movies Kevin Costner's been involved in. And here's yet another movie that really is, like, I don't want to say, here's the thing. Kevin Costner is a great actor. Kevin Costner really is a solid actor overall, and you see that he puts his heart and soul into these projects, but he has to know that when you gamble as much as you do here, you're gonna lose more than once, and you've lost more than one too many times over the last couple. It's ever since you won those Oscars with Dances with Wolves. And even then, your movie was not the best film that came out that year. Goodfellas, Godfather Part 3, to be just to say, but yeah, and it's also not helping the fact that this was a 3-hour movie. This is a film that was literally trying to sell itself to the same audience that made The Sound of Freedom the surprise hit last year, trying to sell it to Middle America, and even they were looking at this and probably going like, yeah, we love Kevin Costner on Yellowstone and all, but I don't want to sit in the movie theater for 3 hours watching this. Like, this doesn't look like a movie that has the same levels of something like, Oppenheimer or Killers of the Flower Moon, where you could sit in the movie theater for over 3 hours. Or Doom Part 2, for example, just recently, was a massive hit, even though that was an over 3-hour film. We could sit through 3-hour movies as long as the movie is good and something is valuable coming out of it. Something valuable is coming out of it, and there's just nothing about these trailers looked promising whatsoever. And I think that really hurts the movie in the long run, and I think that Kevin Costner, this is probably a gamble that's going to fail massively for him. He's going to wish he didn't quit on Yellowstone at this point, because, he made this. It's funny, he makes this big deal about leaving Yellowstone, and then all of a sudden he's just like, well, I hope I get to come back again. But dude, the reason why they're canceling the show was because you left the first time. You left the show. Like, it's because of you that the show got canceled. The show was ending. And it's just like, well, I hope they invite me back. It's just like, I don't get it. I just don't get it with him. Like, you want to like Kevin Costner because he's putting his heart and soul into it, but good lord, man. Like, your ego needs to be taken down a notch, and hopefully that this film does the trick. Or, you know what? Let's see what happens with the second film The second film comes out in August. Less crowded period, too. I mean, come on, you got Inside Out 2. You had a movie that everyone was looking forward to this weekend. Nobody's going to see this on 4th of July weekend. They're taking the kids to see Despicable Me. And you got Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, there's even an audience for Twisters, which I still don't get, but, like, this was just a bad time of the year to release this first film. Well, like I said, the second film comes out in a time when there's not really a whole lot of competition there. It's much cheaper than this first film is, so maybe he could get it all back with the second film. I don't know, but the first film is not promising whatsoever, at least in terms of the box office for Kevin Costner. And I feel like I gotta do a video about Kevin Costner, because like I said, I have nothing but respect for Kevin Costner, but at the same time, you have to know when you're gambling way too much on your success, your celebrity, to do these big passion projects. I mean, this is a project he's been wanting to do since 1988, and again, that's another video I could do. Passion projects that don't work out because you wait so long to actually get it done. But sadly, this is exactly what this is right now. A big passion project that right now is not looking too good for him right now. So that is Horizon American Saga. Not a good success this weekend whatsoever. A movie that was a good success this weekend, opening up at number 2, is, of course, the spin-off prequel to A Quiet Place Day 1, which brought in $53 million, which makes it the highest-grossing film in the series in terms of the opening weekend, and the gross is up to $98.5 million with worldwide $67 million budget. Now, here's the opposite of what Horizon did. This movie's only an hour and a half long. It gets straight to the point. It knows exactly what it needs to do to sell people on the concept here. And here's the thing, though. The thing that's really interesting about this is that this is not directed by John Krasinski. This is a film that he only wrote the story for. This is directed by Michael Sarnowski, who wrote and directed the movie Pig. And this is his second outing as a director. And, an untested director, a star that, yeah, she's got an Academy Award, but Lupita Nyong'o, I don't know, is Lupita Nyong'o considered A-list now? I mean, think about it. She won the Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. She was in Non-Stop, which was also a hit. Black Panther movies. Us. Maybe she is of A-list now, and people will want to see a movie because she's in it. Or maybe they're just interested in the concept alone. I know when I went to see the film yesterday, people were packed in to see it. And the film works really well. I didn't get to do a full review today because I had some other things I had to do. Family things. We went out to an event for my family, so I didn't really get to really delve into this review for it. So I don't know if I'm going to actually save it for next week when I look at Despicable Me 4 and Beverly Hills Cop XOF, or just wait for another time to look at it. But overall, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was a ton of fun. I think it's just as good as the original films are. I like the other two Quiet Place movies a lot. And this movie does a very good job of setting up the storyline here while never feeling like it's a cash grab. They're doing a good job of exploring the worlds around this franchise, and I'm really excited to see where they go for it here. Plus, you're going to love this fucking cat in this movie. You're either going to love him or you're going to hate him because, I mean, good lord, man. This cat is amazing. And your Frodo, it's funny because Lupita Nyong'o has this fear of cats, and she ultimately overcame it with this film. And you could tell because she does make it work with this cat in here. This cat is amazing in this movie. He is so cool and calm in situations here, just like a normal cat is whenever something sinister is going on outside, like when the storm is going on. Like, you know what my cat does? He hides under the bed. Like, he knows something is up. He knows something bad is about to happen, so he just goes under the bed and waits out the storm. And, like, you know what? Like, cats do that, and in this case, this cat does that as well. You're just hoping that this cat makes it out of the movie, and you hope it's not going to be another, I Am Legend situation where the dog dies and just everything just is so fucked up because the dog dies and before it dies and then after he turns into a zombie, which is. It's been 17 years since I Am Legend came out. I still can't get over that scene. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but the first time you see that scene, it's just like, ugh, it's it's tough to watch through, man. But the cat does survive in this, and it's a really good film. Like, I'm really glad to see that people went to go see it. And, it's really opening the door to see what they can do with this series going forward. I mean, it doesn't need to be another Quiet Place film at this point. I mean, you can do whatever you want with this universe. I'm really excited to see where they go with it, though. It could do what Cloverfield started off promisingly doing and then failing to do towards the end with the last film they did. 3 films successfully so far put into this franchise, so one can hope that it continues with the next film they do here, but... then, of course, the number one movie is Inside Out 2, which, the box office is back when 2 movies are opening up at $50+ million at the box office. Actually, just 2 films at $50 million in general. Inside Out 2 this weekend, dropping 43% this weekend, which is much steeper of a drop-off than I think people were expecting, especially considering the next big family competition comes on Wednesday with Despicable Me 4. But Inside Out 2 brought in $57.4 million, bringing its 3-week gross to $469.3 million. I believe it's already surpassed the first film, and it's already hit the $1 billion mark. It's the first movie for Disney in a couple of years to hit the $1 billion mark, and after last year, they needed it. I mean, by the way, funny thing, when I was looking at Freeform's schedule for the big events in July, guess what movie's coming up on July 22nd? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is making its TV premiere about a little over a year after the film was released, which that's unheard of. I mean, I liked the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, but I was just shocked at how fast that movie is going to make its way onto television. Is this becoming the new norm now? Because I know that FX usually waits about a year and a half to put Fox movies on their show, on their network. Like the Bob's Burgers movie was in January this year, even though it came out in May of 2022. I think West Side Story was like that as well. But it's very interesting it's very interesting how this is transpiring now, and I don't know if this is the new norm or not. Because usually it takes about 2 years before a movie makes its way onto television. But lo and behold, this is where we're at right now, where movies could just premiere just a little over a year after they first hit theaters. And I don't know if this is the new normal, but I thought that was kind of interesting to take note of. But like I said, Inside Out 2 is pretty much well over how much the first movie made. The first movie made over $356 million. This is at $469, so yeah. This thing is going to continue to make a profit. I would not be surprised if this hits $600 million plus by the time it gets out of here. But yeah, a good time right now for Disney. They needed it after last year. So, and like I said, they'll take all the money you can, because starting on Wednesday, it's all about Despicable Me, and that's going to be interesting to see how that one transpires, because these movies make a ton of money. I mean, Minions: The Rise of Gru made a lot of money 2 years ago, and that was one of the last movies actually that was held back because of COVID-19. But now we have this new film. I'm hoping it's good because it's got a lot of the same people that made Migration behind it. Mike White wrote the script for it. The reviews for it have not been so promising coming out of it. And the film, everything I've heard about it is that it pulls the Secret Life of Pets 2 motif, where it's not really a story in general. It's just the threads of the story. It's like little segments for what would have been a TV series, because that's what the Secret Life of Pets 2 really felt like. And I liked the first Secret Life of Pets, but I was really let down by the second film of that. So yeah, I've heard this one's kind of the same thing, and it definitely does feel like that from the commercials. So I've got hopes for this, but I've just never been a fan of the Despicable Me franchise in general. I've more than liked the Minions movies more, but maybe this will be the one that will turn the tide, or maybe not. But I digress. Let's get to the stuff you came here for, and that is the announcements I have here. This is now time for what am I doing? Like Michael Jackson, this is it. Like, no, it's now time for the State of the Reviewing Network. So for those of you out there who are relatively new to how I do this, well, here's the thing. About 11 years ago, on July 1st, which will be the day that this will be out, July 1st, 2013, I came up with the idea for the Reviewing Network itself. Actually, I thought about it a couple weeks beforehand, and I was thinking about it weeks beforehand, and then on that day, on July 1st, 2013, I just came to the realization that this is kind of what I want to do. So I made the announcement on July 1st, 2013, and then on that Labor Day weekend, September 1st, 2013, that's when I started what was supposed to be originally what was supposed to be the beginnings of the site, because I was on spill.com back in the day, and I was a contributor on that website too, and like not like somebody that you would have seen from the videos themselves, just like one of the many spilios, as they called it, the fans that usually would put this. That's where my reviews would usually be at, all that stuff, and then on September 1st, 2013, that's when I announced the mini site within a site, with the plan for me to eventually make it into a full website by the time the next year came around in September 2014. But then Spill.com shut down, and then I had to rush to get everything that I had saved on the Spill website saved over to a folder on my computer, so I can be able to move everything quickly to a website. And when Spill.com shut down in early December, I didn't know where to go to here, and I had a friend who luckily was wondering about who actually gave me a good idea of how to basically fix this. They took me to WordPress, and that's where I've been for the last 11 years, and I think WordPress a lot for the contributions they made. They've done a very good job of making sure that my stuff's still able to get out there, and yeah, and that's been the website that's been the company that I've usually the site's been under since the very beginning, from when it all began on Christmas Day 2013, and that's where I've been ever since. And then, of course, we've expanded to YouTube, we've expanded to the Reviewing Network Live channel, we've also expanded to other forms of media as well, such as the book that I put out last year. And with this list of announcements here, we're stepping it into further places that we've never gone to before, and I'm really excited about these announcements I'm about to present here. I've been thinking about this for the last couple of months now, thinking about what can I do to really up what I did last year. The last couple of years have been very busy, of course, because that was, of course, the 10th anniversary. There's a lot of stuff I was promising I was going to do that I never really got to do. I still want to do at some point, so hopefully this will be the next 12 months will hopefully be when you will see a lot of the stuff here that I'm going to mention. I'll start off with the smaller stuff first, and then we'll get to the bigger things here, because we've got a lot of big things to talk about. So one of the things that I mentioned before on the Reviewing Network Talks About, when I talked about the current state of The Simpsons, is the September special that I've got coming up in September, where starting in September, I'm going to do daily episodic reviews of The Simpsons. You might have seen my critic reviews over on the main channel. That's what that's going to be like. This time looking at the first 30 episodes of The Simpsons this September, and then every September going forward, we'll take a look at another 30 episodes, and we'll just, we'll make it an annual thing. It'll be like, when Nostalgia Critic does Disney December, James Rolfe does Monster Madness, that type of thing here. So I already announced that. That's going to come out. That's going to start on September 1st, so be on the lookout for that. Things you never noticed in. I know that on the website, it's been a couple months since I stopped doing those, and I just took a break from them, honestly, because things kept getting in the way. And I'm here to announce that the things you never noticed in blog posts are going to be returning to the website. They're going to return starting on Thursday. What day did I say? Thursday, August 29th, I believe I have it set for. It's going to be on Labor Day weekend. So August 29th, be on the lookout for the return of Things You Never Noticed. And this is, of course, the blog post where I talk about. It's basically just a copy and paste of IMDb of the trivia things, and stuff that I think is actually interesting, because if you go on to IMDb and you see some of the things that sometimes you can find some interesting trivia, like with Home Alone. all the different names they had attached for Home Alone at some point. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger was attached to Home Alone at one point. Chevy Chase was attached at one point to Home Alone. Like all these different people that were involved there. Willy Wonka is probably one of the most interesting ones because it seemed like nearly everybody in Hollywood was at one point attached to either the Gene Wilder version or the Johnny Depp version. There was like a range of like various people, and actually, let me see if I can find some of that list because it was crazy. Like for the Tim Burton one, they had Robin Williams was at one point considered for the role, and that's when you think like, okay, that's something that's not too crazy. But then stuff like Mike, I think Joe Gray was originally considered in '71, and they had people like all the people from Monty Python were considered for Willy Wonka. John Cleese, Eric Idle, Terry Gilliam, Michael Palin, Terry Jones, Graham Chapman. Let me see if I can find some of the other ones, because these are just really, really interesting various names that they had here. And, there was another one, too. There was another one from the 70s version I thought was crazy that they think they were going to get him. But here it is. Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers was at one point going to be Willy Wonka, and he was desperate to play the role and even begged Roald Dahl for his approval, but of course that never happened. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that didn't happen, because I felt like that could have been really, really weird, is having Inspector Clouseau playing Willy Wonka. I mean, Inspector Clouseau is just a character that is just so hard. That's hard enough to replicate, and Steve Martin tried, God bless his soul, but it doesn't work all the time. Now that with the Tim Burton version, it's incredible who they went after for Willy Wonka here. I mean, I'll just read the names here. I mentioned Robin Williams, Rowan Atkinson, Nicolas Cage, Jim Carrey, Robert De Niro, Dwayne Johnson, Adam Sandler, Michael Keaton, Steve Martin, Bill Murray, Mike Myers, Leslie Nielsen, Michael Palin, like I said, the Monty Python guys, Brad Pitt, Will Smith, Patrick Stewart, Ben Stiller, Christopher Walken, and Roald Dahl's wife even said Dustin Hoffman or an English comedian like Eddie Izzard. Like, can you imagine how crazy this movie would have been if any of those names were even more crazier than it already is with any of those names attached to it? The only ones I could probably see working for that probably would have been maybe Patrick Stewart, even somebody like Leslie Nielsen or Rowan Atkinson. I feel like those guys maybe could have made it work. But The Rock, Adam Sandler, Robert De Niro, I think that would have been pushing it. And like I said, Johnny Depp, he was pushing it enough as it is. So I'm kind of glad that they didn't go that route. But I'm going to give you a preview of what what this post is like. And like I said before, you get interesting facts like that, but then you get facts that don't make a whole lot of sense. Like there's one for like I did a post about Peter Rabbit because it was Easter time. There's not a whole lot of other Easter movies to do with things you never noticed on. And these things here were just really, really random. Like there was just like really pointless things that just didn't feel like they were so unnecessarily put in there. I'm trying to remember which one was the craziest one. I can't remember, but you get kind of the idea of what that post is. And like I said, it's been a while since I've done one of those, so August 29th, we're bringing that back, and I think Black Adam's going to be the first one that I'll cover on there. So that'll be one. So check that out on August 29th. You also notice that on this channel, I've been doing more Time About the Movies clipless versions, and they have been very successful. So, gave me kind of an idea to do the Time About the Movies best and worst of yearly specials. So there's going to be, we'll do like a year, every year that I cover out here, from the Time About the Movies episodes, as well as Time About the Movies flashback when that point comes. That's going to happen once I get updated on the clipless versions videos, which I think at this point I'm at 1998, starting tomorrow. So we're not too far away from it. It usually takes about 2 weeks to get every single month put together, because I usually put 4 to 5 videos up a day. So once I get those done, I'll start putting the best and worst of specials on this channel. So be on the lookout for that coming up. Some of the things that I've mentioned before in past announcement videos, like I mentioned this a couple years ago, the shopping reviewing network videos. This year I'm going to make it my attempt to get that out in time for the Christmas holiday season. It's going to be me talking about stuff that's available on eBay and my eBay and Mercari store. And I've been saying I've been going to do this for a while now, and I'm going to try to do it this year. Movies you agree, disagree on, I still want to do that down the road. Hopefully I'll get to that this year as well. The Return of Multiplicity, I'm thinking about getting back. I'm trying to get back to that because I kind of stopped doing it mostly because other things kept getting in the way, and I still have a lot of things I could easily do. I think what I'm trying to do here is that I'm trying to wait for a good period of time when I can go ahead and just purge my house, clean up all my stuff, get everything in specific places, because I have a lot of stuff around my house that needs cleaned up and just don't have the time to really go ahead and delve into it because I have so many things I have to work on. But I want to try to get back to doing more Multiplicity videos coming up in the future on the main channel. The Reviewing Network Awards 2025 is going to be coming up once again, and I know this year I did like a truncated version because of my grandmother passing away. It was right around the time I was going to film that episode, that special, and so for the 90s, so this is going to be coming up, I believe. It's going to be coming up on the Saturday before the Oscars, which is, I think, this year in late February, if I'm not mistaken. Close, March 2nd, 2025. So, March 1st, 2025, expect the Reviewing Network Awards with an actual show this time around with me in front of the camera. So, be on the lookout for that. And then that's pretty much all of the stuff from the last couple of videos I've tried to mention before. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get to the fun stuff here. This was the stuff that I'm really excited to announce that I'm going to be doing. So, let's go ahead and get to these things. So I'll start off with some of the smaller things and then get to the big stuff I want to cover here. So first off, on Sunday, September 8th, the Reviewing Network Live episode is going to be a live watch of the Pittsburgh Steelers season opener. The Steelers are getting ready to begin a new era with Russell Wilson as the quarterback, and there's a lot of hope around here. I personally don't see it, but we will see what happens when they take on the Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Smith going back to his former team, and they're looking like a much different team with Kirk Cousins under there. Raheem Morris is the head coach, so I'm very cautious about this season, but I'm going to watch it on that Sunday, so there'll be a very early episode of the Reviewing Network Live, which kickoff will be around 1 o'clock, so I'll record that and then have that for you later on in the day, so be on the lookout for that. One of the things that I want to try to do this upcoming year is doing film commentary, and I figure one of the first ones I should probably do is my favorite movie of all time, and that is Bambi. So later on this year, you're going to hear me doing a commentary for the first ever Reviewing Network commentary for Bambi, and I picked that one mostly because it's a relatively short movie. First off, it's only about an hour and a half long, so it's about the size of a normal episode of the Reviewing Network Live. So there will be 1 week, sometime later in the year, it's on the Reviewing Network Live, where we will not do a regular episode, but the focus will be on the film commentary. I haven't decided which weekend that's going to be, so that is something that's definitely going to be coming up, and hopefully, if it's successful, I'll do more of these going forward, and definitely looking forward to doing that one. So the Reviewing Network Riff Extravaganza. If you follow me on the main channel, you know that I do riffs of various public domain shorts, Woody Woodpecker, mostly Superman stuff in the last couple of months. And they're going to be I'm going to do a compilation video coming up pretty soon of all the shorts together, including a couple of new shorts that I've yet to decide on when those are going to come, on what those ones are going to be, but it'll be like a little movie compilation of all the riffs I've done. So that'll be coming up later on, sometime at the end of this year or early next year, in early January. So definitely be on the lookout for that. These last two things I want to cover are probably the most ambitious projects I've got coming up in the next year. We'll start off with this one here. I'm trying to start off a new series of documentary films. And they're going to be these are going to be much longer form conversations. Starting off as a series of about the size of a regular Reviewing Network Talks About episode, and then once we get done with the topics in general, they'll be put together into one feature-length movie. And the first one that's in the works right now is this September 27th is going to be the 70th anniversary of The Tonight Show. And The Tonight Show has had a plethora of history behind it, from its 6 hosts: Jack Paar, Johnny Carson, Steve Allen, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Fallon. And I have already begun the process of putting it together. And in fact, we have a special treat for you here today. We are actually going to show you the first opening 6 minutes of the Tonight Show documentary that I've already put together. I'm really excited about how this is going to turn out. So, and I really hope that we get to do this actually works out here. So I'm going to let myself sit back. I'm going to let you guys relax, and I'm going to let you experience the first 6 minutes of the 70 years of the Tonight Show unauthorized documentary I've got coming up this September. So sit back and enjoy.
Rock and roll music is the most barbaric form of nonsense ever heard by human ears. Yes. Its attraction stems from barbaric beats that would not even appeal to a smart caveman. Appeals to the lower natures of men, and is disgusting. The solution to this problem is to send these savage rock and roll punks to another country. Signed, Elvis Presley.
May I ask you, so that I don't look too naive, a tough question right off the bat?
And whether I'm a Democrat or Republican?
Oh, baby.
Oh, Margaret Thatcher is not in town. She actually is in Washington, and with meetings, and a reporter asked her what the biggest contribution that Great Britain has made. And she said, deporting Robin Leach.
Hello, 1, 2. Attention Kmart shoppers, aisle 34, garden hose and lawnmowers.
Well, welcome to The Tonight Show. Let me explain. This part of the program is what we call the monologue. Do you know where the term monologue comes from? I don't know if you know. It's kind of interesting. Log comes from the Greek root, meaning a collection of comments. And money comes from the word Monica, meaning a young intern who's easy to make fun of. Yeah. So you have monologue. You see, you have monologue.
I've been giving this situation a lot of thought. You know, this is a true story. When I was a little boy, I remember watching The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and thinking, someday I'm going to host that show for 7 months.
Welcome to The Tonight Show. This is the first Tonight Show broadcast from New York in over 40 years. Good, huh? Welcome. I'm Jimmy Fallon, and I'll be your host for now.
September 27th, 2024 will mark the 70th anniversary of The Tonight Show, a television institution that remains as popular today as it did when it premiered back in 1954. Throughout its history, The Tonight Show has had 6 different hosts over the course of 7 decades, each to varying successes, consistently ranking as the top-rated late-night show on television, one of the most profitable shows in the history of NBC, memorable moments and experiences that TV audiences will never forget. The Tonight Show has its permanent place in the annals of television history. But it was never easy. Varying controversies over the 70-year history of The Tonight Show, from network interference to jokes getting unnecessarily pulled, to hosts literally quitting their show on the air, to new heads at NBC trying to bully the big moneymakers, to hosting controversy after hosting controversy after hosting controversy. The Tonight Show has seen it all, done it all, and been through it all in the last 7 decades. This is the story of how we got there. So there you go. That's the first 6 minutes of the 70 years of The Tonight Show, an unauthorized documentary. That's the opening of the movie, which will begin with a new segment coming out every Friday at night. So the first one will be, of course, Steve Allen on September 27th. Of course, the 70th anniversary of The Tonight Show. Jack Parr on October 4th. Johnny Carson on October 11th, Jay Leno on October 18th, Conan on October 25th, and Jimmy Fallon on November 1st. And then around Thanksgiving, they will all be put together into one feature-length movie that will be available to watch on the site for free, of course. And like I said, this is an unauthorized documentary. NBC is not involved in this in any way, shape, or form. I'm doing this in the fact that I grew up loving The Tonight Show. I mean, I grew up first with Jay Leno. I eventually found my way to Johnny Carson, and then eventually Conan O'Brien, and then Jimmy Fallon, then eventually Steve Allen and Jack Parr. So I'm doing this in love of the fact that I love the Tonight Show. Even though the recent run of Tonight Show has definitely been very tough to watch, very hard to watch, I should say. I've been wanting to talk about that for a while now, but that's gonna wait. That's gonna have to wait until a little bit later on. But I'm looking forward to doing this. It's gonna be a 6-week event starting on September 27th, and like I said, each of these segments will be very much in the same length of a Reviewing Network Talks About episode. And then eventually, when we get all 6 parts together, they'll be put together into a movie that will premiere around Thanksgiving weekend. So definitely be on the lookout for that. That starts on September 27th. I can't wait to get started on that. So that's one of the 2 big announcements. And the other big announcement I have here is is something that I worked on a long time ago. A while back, I had this idea in my dream of the storyline for a potential movie that I wanted to work on here, and it was a long process to put together eventually, and I did finally get to put together the script for this project called Wasteland that I've been wanting to do for a while now, and hoping that one day I was going to eventually get to do it in real life, I should say. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but of course, things didn't really go out the way I wanted it to, and I eventually put the script online for people to see. And so I figured, I still don't have the budget to do a full-length production of this in terms of like a movie, but I do have enough to do an audio mini-series of this. So coming up in the next year, you're going to see Wasteland come to life in an audio mini-series event. And the story of Wasteland is that you follow... The plot of Wasteland is basically set in World War II. Wasteland is a story about a soldier who finds out that his world may not be what it seems to be. As it turns out, it isn't. The soldier realizes that he's actually part of a scientific experiment that takes place in modern times, and he's actually a soldier who was in a coma after a bomb exploded near him in Iraq. And thus, as part of a government experiment, his body is trapped within the computer, and he realizes more and more who he really is. He fights to escape out of the simulator no matter what. And this is a sci-fi action adventure with a mix of live action and CG, as I put it here in my little summarization I put together when I was initially pitching this. The biggest influences from the story here are obviously The Truman Show, Saving Private Ryan, The Cabin in the Woods, Tron, The World's End. There's a little bit of Source Code in there, Blade Runner, Fury, the 2 Captain America movies, The First Avenger and The Winter Soldier. And you have characters including the aforementioned Marcus Brennan, who is a soldier who was put in the government experiment and tries to break out of the system the government's put him in. His wife, Francesca, who was told that her husband perished in the bomb explosion in Iraq, but later finds out the truth. And in World War II, she's his wife that's actually part of the simulation, although she carries her same traits in the past as the real person does. He has a 5-year-old son named Sam. The general in World War II is General Richard Rosenhop, and is Marcus's superior. One of the doctors is named William Donovan, conducting the government experiment. Natalie Galveston is a young woman who is one of the main doctors in charge of watching Marcus's body at all times. Another doctor is Seth Langman, who is a doctor who's in charge of watching Marcus's body. Franklin Hamilton is one of the friends that Marcus has made in the simulation, to the point where it's revealed that he is a program. Even though he is a program, he's willing to help Marcus escape the simulation. Thom Latham is one of the older friends that Marcus has made in the simulation, to the point where it's revealed that he's a program, and he's also able to help him out. The programs vary in age. Computer programs all throughout the simulation, as well as we find out in the key scene, if they get injured, fall, or get killed, their human skin will evaporate, and it will be revealed that they're actually computer programs. Many of them are working for the government, but there are some that are willing to help Marcus reach his goal of escaping the simulation. And of course, we have people like other characters that are introduced here, like Richard Graceland, who works for Dr. William Donovan, willing to make sure the simulation runs as smoothly as it can, come hell or high water. President Barbara Sherman, who's the current president, who has questions about the approval of the government experiment. Roger Brenneman, the father of Marcus. An associate general, David Rosen, who's the assistant to General Richard Rosenhop. And President Harry Truman, who was the president, of course, at the time of the end of World War II. And I did like these sketches back in the day that give you kind of an idea of what the programs look like. They kind of look like a little bit of a mix between the ASDF movie characters mixed with a little bit of Slender Man, kind of. I mean, they were literally like drawings that I did, and they're not like they're not perfect overall, but they do give you kind of an idea of what these creatures are like in general. And I did this about 8 years ago, actually. 2016 was when the full script came out. And it's been something I've been wanting to do for a while now in some kind of form. But now I feel like I can do that with an audio miniseries format. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting off the ground pretty soon. So hopefully within the next year, that will eventually become the next big event after I do the Tonight Show documentary. So within the next year, be on the lookout for that. I'll have more updates as that continues to move forward. So yeah, Wasteland's finally getting made after all these years. Maybe not as a movie just yet, but eventually it will get there as a audio miniseries, as I like to call it. So there you go. Those last two were the two really big announcements I wanted to cover for you. And a lot of stuff here, I know. And I'm going to try my best to get it all out there for you. But I'm definitely looking forward to the next year and showing off what we can do here. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you guys will enjoy them as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and get back to the regular format of the show. Let's take a look at some recommendations, and we can go ahead and get the hell on out of here. And seeing how this wasn't a busy release week, because a lot of the releases coming up on Tuesday are just basically re-releases and official wide releases of steelbooks that Best Buy had over the last couple of years, I want to dedicate this recommendation segment to Martin Mull, who passed away this past Friday at the age of 80 years old. And Martin Mull was one of those very underrated character actors you saw in a lot of different things. You saw him he first premiered in most people saw him in Mary Hartman, and then starring in the spin-offs Fernwood Tonight and America Tonight. But I remember him from stuff like Clue, where he played Colonel Mustard. A great underrated film. He's also been in a lot of great movies in general. Mr. Mom. He was also in Mrs. Doubtfire. He was also in Jingle All the Way, playing the DJ. He was in. He's done a lot of great TV shows. He's done a lot for the Golden Girls. He was on Roseanne. He was the voice of Skip Binsford on this short-lived Family Dog animated series. He's done stuff for Recess, The Simpsons, Family Guy, Just Shoot Me, Dexter's Laboratory, a ton of different shows. He also did Arrested Development. My favorite thing he did was playing Vlad Masters on Danny Phantom. I thought he was a great villain on there, playing kind of the uncle to, kind of like an uncle character to Danny Phantom. But he was a great villain in general. Like he could be menacing, but he could also be really funny at times when he needs to be. And he was great on the show. Like, he was very fun. A great underrated show, Danny Phantom was. But he's done a lot of television stuff. A lot of it was not. It's when he did scripted, like, regular TV series work on a regular series. The shows were not that great in general. Dad's is one of those shows that I'll never forget, that they basically just waste him for nothing more but just to say, like, offensive humor for the sake of saying offensive, not even humor, offensive things just to say offensive things. Like, that's one of those shows where it's just like, so much potential was going into that show, and it just never went the way that it should have gone with that show. It just felt like a wasted opportunity. They had a great cast involved in that show. And then he follows it up with the Cool Kids, which is supposed to be the show that was supposed to follow Last Man Standing to create, like, this new incredible comedy block on Fox, and it just didn't work out. It's another show that wastes a lot of good talent. I mean, not just him, but Leslie Jordan, David Alan Grier, Vicki Lawrence, and it was created by Charlie Day too. Like, the pieces definitely were there for something really good, and it never reached that caliber that it could have probably hit. I mean, it was a show that had a lot of potential going for it, just a terrific cast involved, but it just had those lame jokes that really held it back from being anything too spectacular or too incredible. And it's not surprising why the show didn't last very long. But it's a shame that Martin Mull never had a full TV show where he really got to show what he can do as a comedic actor, because he was a great comedic actor and just never really had the right show to really show what he can do in general. But every time he'd show up, he'd always give it his all in little bits and pieces, and it'd make for a really, really entertaining episode for that particular show. But yeah, it's a shame that he's gone now. Two great legends in the last 2 weeks. Donald Sutherland last week, and then this week, Martin Mull. Rule of three. Who's going to go this week? So we'll find out eventually. But yeah, rest in peace, Martin Mull. Great underrated comedic talent who will sorely be missed. So with that said, that's going to wrap up this special episode of the Reviewing Network Live. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Check out the best and worst movies of the year so far that I did on Wednesday. Go ahead and put a link to that in the corner. You can also check out the other episodes we've done. We post here every Sunday night at midnight. We also have videos during the course of the week, trailer reactions, time about the movies, clipless versions, you name it. We've got it all covered for you here, as well as on our main channel. So go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Subscribe to both of our channels. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And I will see you guys next week for another episode. Sunday night, of course. Be here Sunday night at midnight. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, we are out.